Hello, folks. Welcome back to another edition of Al Joint. I'll be joined by my co-host Dennis Painter as we examine why this administration has taken us into yet another war. So as we pay homage to Edwin Starr and war, what is it good for? Let's take the gloves off and let's get at it. Okay, brother Painter, here we are again. Unfortunately, because of an accident, my face cannot be seen yet. So as my face heals, we'll try to see what we can do to make sure we do our part to keep this country from falling apart. Every week we think that it can get worse. If you go back to our earlier podcast, we keep saying that, and sure enough, the next week he does something more and more outrageous to me to cover up from the Epstein files and that pedophile ring. And I think that if people really think how much damage that those files could do to him, you have to think he started a war. So you can say Israel started it, but the United States has never followed Israel before. It was never the tail wagging the dog. But for Trump, anything he can do for a distraction, he's going to take it.
Well, the way I see it is, I mean, he started, bombing Venezuela without any authorization. He's doing the same thing in Iran without, congressional authorization. He spoke last week on national TV, the national address. He never said anything about it then. But he's saying the same thing in every case. It's national security that's to protect us. But as you said, it is to try to distract the American public from the Epstein files. Now, he's willing to sacrifice people's lives for that. And that shows you how sick he is, Al.
I'm not going to keep saying that it's only Trump. Now it's that 35% of the MAGA base that will follow him blindly off a cliff, no matter how many campaign promises he breaks. If you recall, he said what? That he would end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. Hell, he said it'd be settled before he even got into office on his first day. He said it would be America first, no more endless wars. He said he would make sure that he released the Epstein files and got attacked that pedophile ring that exists amongst billionaires. He would bring food prices down, gas prices down, and he hasn't done any of that. He's done the opposite. He's
Well,
caused the gas prices to go up.
just one thing. I mean, just since he started bombing Iran, gas prices have jumped dramatically. And
Yes,
so,
they have.
but looking at this picture out, everything that's happened since the time he's taken office is really the fault of the voters that voted for him. Not just his 35%, but the rest of them. That's who's at fault here. And the moral compass of the United States has gotten lost. And those people in the middle, I call them in the middle, that could have voted either way, those people lost their moral compass and voted for a man that they knew had raped women, they knew had raped children, they knew that he had committed felonies, they knew he had been convicted of over 40 or 34 felonies, and they still voted for him. So we have to carry the responsibility of putting him in office. And I say we as being those who voted for him. They voted for this. Now, some of them are saying they didn't realize it. That's okay. It's nothing wrong with saying I made a mistake. But what's wrong, and you keep pointing it out, in the podcast, and I agree with you, is that 35% doesn't matter. They will never admit that killing innocent people is wrong, that racism is wrong, that white supremacy is wrong. They will never admit to those things. But that group, I call in the middle, that group hopefully will get their moral compass back, because as the world sees us, on the world stage. The United States of America has lost its moral compass. And it's all because the voters put a man in that had no moral compass to start with.
Well put. So we enter into a war because Trump followers now, and Trump is saying that there were protesters being killed in Iran. There were protesters being killed in the United States, and what did they justify it? The administration justified it. MAGA justified it. And you're going to tell me that you're worried about somebody on another continent, what's happening to their protesters? Are we willing to admit that there are some dictators in this world that probably shouldn't be in the position they're in? Yes. And I'll be the first one to say that. We have one here. We have one in the United States that's a dictator, and he shouldn't be in office. And people say, oh, well, they're cheering all across the world because, we killed the Iranian leader. Let me tell you something. There will be people in the streets cheering all over the world if Donald Trump died. That's just the truth of the matter. And you know what we would say here? Oh, how dare they? How could they do that? But the same way you're doing it for the Iranian leader, people look at Donald Trump. He's starting wars unnecessary. He doesn't have any allies. And worst of all, he's a pedophile and he raped little boys and girls. And if that's not a tyrant, I don't know what other definition you can use.
Yeah, well, it's a sign that he absolutely has, like I said, no moral compass. But since bombing Iran, he's named at least 7 other countries he's planning on taking military action, including Greenland. Okay. And that came out after he started bombing Iran. So all of this stuff, and he campaigned on it that, he could settle wars, which is what you said. He said in his State of the Union address that there's no place for political violence, but, he's instigating political violence and has been doing that since his first term. January 6th was political violence. So the people need to listen and remember what he says versus what he does. And that goes for his entire administration. His entire administration is lying. I don't care whether it's Pam Bondi or Kristi Noem or Hegseth, they're all lying. So people need to pay closer attention to what is going on because this is our country. This is not Trump's country. And these are our children, as you pointed out, that he's trying to cover up what he's done to our children in this country and other countries by keeping the Epstein files or trying to direct our attention away from the Epstein files.
And let's look at the casualties of this war, both in human lives and costs. What we have 6 Marines killed, another 18 wounded. There's been over 180 children killed, and I don't want to hear any of the bullshit that the Iranians shot the missiles into the old school. That's just not true and hasn't been proven, or you could bet it would be over every news station because of the propaganda they used. There were 3 jets shot down. Those jets are estimated to cost anywhere between $100 and $117 million. That's $345 million we lost in one day. Over in 1 week, we spent over $1 billion on the Iran war. And it's probably much higher than that, but that's when you account how many of the missiles we've used. You know how many jobs that could have funded, how many folks without health care could have received health care, how many schools could have been upgraded. And people look around and they say a lie at that, but an immigrant using health care here, but we're willing to waste billions and billions of dollars fighting a country for no reason.
Well, here's where I'm going to go back to what I said just a few minutes ago, and that's people need to remember what Trump says. Last summer, he attacked Iran to get rid of their nuclear abilities to make weapons. And he bombed them for, I think, 3 or 4 days and came on TV and said, we've been 100% successful. And now he's back on TV saying we bombed Iran because they have nuclear capabilities. It's the same old story. I'm protecting America. He's not protecting America. You know, he's lying to everyone. Now, people need to remember this. And it's not just the casualties of people shot in this war, the airline pilots or those children that were killed, but Iran is going to retaliate. And they have long memories. You know, foreign countries have long memories of who did violence to their people and to their country. They're going to come to this country and they're going to do violence in our country simply because Trump started this war. Okay. Now he said initially, well, I have a right to do what I'm doing to protect Americans' interests. It's not really a war, but later he called it a war, and Hexas says it's a war, and the Constitution makes it very clear that you can only start a war after congressional approval. And he never seeked congressional approval, and to this day has not seeked congressional approval. Now, there's a couple bills out there that is trying to force him to do that, but you know, it's going to fall along party lines. The Republicans won't continue to kiss his butt. Americans are going to continue to die along with other people in other countries. And the prices of food, the prices of gas, the price of our cost of living will continue to escalate. And people need to pay attention. We need to get this man out of office. He needs to be removed, not voted out, removed, arrested for all the crimes he's done, including the Epstein files and raping those women or those young girls and boys. We need to get him out of office, and it's going to have to be by force.
I agree. And Marco Polo Rubio, I call him, he's the administration can't even keep their story straight, right? It changed 3 times in 3 days. He's out there making himself look like a damn fool, saying that, and he did something that he probably regretted because he made Trump look like Israel's bitch by saying that Israel was going to launch an attack on Iran, whether we liked it or not, and we feared that Iran would attack us. I don't even know how you describe that logic as anything but idiotic. And what does Trump come out the next day? Because he knew now he's looking like he's Israel's bitch. He says, no, I forced Israel to launch, which makes no sense either. Right. So this
No,
administration doesn't even they can lie on Monday, tell another lie Tuesday and another lie Wednesday, and the MAGA will follow the bouncing ball and just support whatever they say.
it's worse than that, Al. They'll lie Monday morning and tell a different lie Monday evening, and MAGA will follow what and believe whatever is said. It doesn't matter. And this is going to continue. It's not going to be a short-term war, and they have no end game. You know, Trump hasn't said what his end game is, or they don't have a plan for an end game. You know, how long is this going to last? Well, we're going to bomb them, and I'm going to say we've been successful, like you did last summer. But now you're saying you weren't successful. Did you lie to us last summer, or are you lying to us now? Did you obliterate their abilities to produce nuclear weapons last summer, or did you lie to us? Or are you lying now by saying they have nuclear capabilities, okay, to make nuclear weapons? Which is it? Can't be both. You know, it's one or the other. You either obliterated it back then or you was lying.
I want to be clear that I have been anti-Israel for the last couple of years. And because their policies have been inhumane, it may benefit the United States politically, but their policies have been inhumane. Doesn't mean that we're anti-Semitic. I don't want people to try to think that you can be anti-Israel and you still can't respect and love the Jewish people, because what's happening in Israel is politics. And there are Jewish people in the world who are also anti-Israel politics. So that's
Well,
not going to change the fact that Trump thinks it is okay to follow, skipping along with Israel.
well, it's I call what's been going on in the Middle East more of a religious war that's been going on for decades. But and it's not going to stop. I mean, we can bomb all we want to, but it's going to continue because the deep-seated, deep-rooted feeling is that they're right, and they teach that to their kids that are coming up, and it won't stop. And I mean, I take a look at this and say, okay, how many people died in Vietnam, and how much change did we really make there? Okay,
None.
that's right, except for our veterans who were disabled, our veterans who had Agent Orange, and our military that never came home, or if they came home in a body bag.
Out. No one wants to fight for Israel.
His hand. Oh, his hand.
Sir. Let go of your hand. Let go of the door. Let go of the door. The senator broke his hand. A sitting U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine.
That's what happened. And there was, once again, there was really no end game. And people that don't know is we started that in the 50s, attacking them, thinking we're going to change communism. North Korea, I had friends that served in Vietnam. I had family that served in Korea, and I had, same thing. So now we got to keep military bases all around the world. How much does that cost us? We're making enemies of our allies by thinking that we're going to make the world the way we want it instead of letting the people decide in their country how they want it. Imagine what it'd be like if someone bombed us because they didn't like, our regime and they want to change it. We'd be up in arms. We'd be furious. Now, I don't want Trump in office. Okay, I think he should be removed, but it should be done legally. It shouldn't be done by bombing. The White House shouldn't be done by bombing children's school and killing them. But it'd be the same thing. They have the right around the world to decide for themselves. And I'm not for violence against any group of people for political reasons. Okay. And I know there's suppression around the world. And I believe that that's wrong. But there's other ways to go about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time we've been down this road. People don't understand. This has been going on for close to three-quarters of a century. Because if you recall, in '53, United States and Canada overthrew the leaders in Iran then, and they set the tone for where they are now. So this tells you maybe they think that, okay, will have another 25, 30 years that we can reap the benefits of their resources. I don't know, but this isn't the first time that the United States has done this. And they wonder why we're hated. People on other continents have no reason to hate us. They don't commingle with us. It's because we're over there. We're in those regions, causing chaos, mostly for economic reasons. And then it comes back to bite us later. But if most folks don't do their research, so they think that for some reason, folks who are Muslims just wake up hating America. It makes no sense. Now we have 160 children killed. I'm sorry, 180 children that died. What do you think their relatives, their brothers and sisters are going to think? You think they're just going to say, okay, I lost my sister or my daughter or my niece or my granddaughter, let it go. No, they become sworn enemies of the United States and Israel, even deeper.
Right. And I can understand, quite frankly, why other countries around the world and the people in those countries hate America. Because quite frankly, what Trump is doing is not only murder and showing no conscience, and it's for the wrong reasons, it's not for the reasons he's stating it, but he's doing it with arrogance. And I'm the king. And I'm going to rule the world, and I'll decide who is going to be controlling that country, which of course Trump says it's going to be him. Now, of course, going into Venezuela, it was all about the drugs. Well, we haven't heard anything about the drugs, and the first thing he said was oil, oil, oil. Now we're taking their oil. Same thing's going to happen, in Iran, okay, and those surrounding countries. But it makes no sense. He lies about this stuff to get us in wars. Our people die. Our children die. Our grandchildren die. How many of his children are going to go and fight in Iran? Okay. Now, this is a 4-time draft dodger. I got heel spurs, okay, bone spurs. He didn't have the courage to serve. And he's sending our men and women to go into a war for some fictitious reason. Like I said, he should be removed.
I would say that if you go back over the last 100 years and take every president in that time span, let's go back to the 1900. Take every president in that time span, and you take every negative controversy that they were accused of, it doesn't come close to what this one president has done in his one term in 1 year. It's ridiculous. And it's not just the 35%, right? The 35% are the ones that'll fall off the ledge for him. But those other folks, you got to step up and speak out because you put him there.
I'll say this about me, and I'll say this about most people. We all have made mistakes. There is no shame in making a mistake. I've believed in people that let me down. Okay. The shame did not go to me because I believed in them or I trusted them. The shame lies in those who didn't take my trust or misused my trust. The shame in this case goes to the people who do not realize and will not admit that they made a mistake. There's nothing wrong with saying, I made a mistake. There is something wrong with saying, I'm going to continue making that mistake. And that's where the 35% are. But I'm hoping that those who still have any measure of morality or any morals, quite frankly, will change their opinion, will speak up, will stand up, will get out in the streets with those who are already out in the streets. That's what I'm hoping. But let's correct it. Let's learn from it. This is a terrible time in our history. It's going to go down as one of the worst times this country's faced. But let's all stand on the right side of history. That's where I think people like you and I are. And, of course, we won't be named, but we need to stay on the right side of history.
I just want to make sure people understand how hypocritical the United States is. And when I say the United States, I don't mean the land, I mean the people. And they say the leader of Iran needed to be killed because he killed protesters. He was against women's rights. And all that might be true, but it's minuscule compared to what the United States done to the minorities over the last 100 years. If you go back over the last 100 years, it's documented that you're talking about millions of minorities that were killed because of where they was lynched, because of their denied equal health care, because they were denied equal rights. Millions of minorities, but nobody ever came over here and killed our president or our leaders or kidnapped our leaders. But the hypocrisy that folks say that they think they can just look and take the high road when their own house is far more tainted than any other country there is in the history of this world.
Absolutely true, Al. I mean, you look at the history of the people of color that were enslaved. You look at the Civil War. You look at after the Civil War. People still tried to deny people of color rights. And even though during the World Wars, people of color were sent off to fight for this country, to fight for freedom, when they came back to this country, they still had to sit in the back of the bus or had a different place. They couldn't sit at the counter in a restaurant. All of those things were wrong. And what people don't know is that it happened also to Chinese people or people that look like they were not Chinese, but Japanese, because of one of the world wars. They took people, innocent people, and put them in concentration camps, much like they're doing immigrants now, because of their color and because they may have been Japanese, not because they were guilty of betraying this country, but because of their looks. It was wrong to enslave people and treat them like property. It was wrong to take people because they looked Japanese and put them in concentration camps, and that was men, women, and children. They put them all in there. It was wrong for us to take and put Native Americans take their land and then put them on reservations, kill them off, saying they were savages. I mean, all this has been wrong, and people need to understand that our history is really tainted. And you look at the civil rights movement, and during a 6-year period in our country, there was 4 leaders standing out front for civil rights. The 2 most prominent one was Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Okay, they were assassinated. President John Kennedy was assassinated. He was more or less pushed into the position of being on the side of civil rights. I don't think he did it voluntarily. I think the political climate in this country was changing. And he was assassinated. And then his brother, Robert Kennedy, was assassinated. And that was within a period of 6 years. So the violence in this country is unbelievable. And we act like, we're above everybody else. We're not. There's countries out there that are far better than us. And if you simply look at what's going on with the Epstein files, there's countries out there being far more aggressive in prosecuting the people that violated those young girls and boys than the United States of America. Our effort has been, and I say our, not your effort, not my effort, but the Department of Justice, the President of the United States, Pam Bondi, and everyone is Kash Patel has been to direct our attention away, to lie, and to try to protect the pedophiles. Not just one, all of them. And I've been telling people online who want to defend Trump, and I don't talk to them directly because they respond. They say something positive about Trump. He's the greatest president. I said, if you're a relative of this person, or this person lives in your neighborhood, I would keep your children away from them, because this is a pedophile protector, if not a pedophile themselves. Watch your children, protect your children. Don't let them around this person, because we have some sick people in our country, and we need to look at ourselves before we start looking at other people.
I would once again ask folks to listen to the Zasha Rowley interview and the tapes. And if you listen to those and you come away and you don't understand how sick this administration is, then there's something wrong with you. Lindsey Graham, Donald Trump, Melania Trump, Jim Jordan, Clarence Thomas, the list goes on and on. There's a reason why the Supreme Court is in place. There's a reason why they support Trump. There's a reason why people like Lindsey Graham changed his tone, did a 180 on his support for Donald Trump over the years, because they're all involved. There's a reason why Jim Jordan sits on those committees, because they know that he's going to protect them because he's a part of the rank. And if folks don't listen to the Zasha Rowley tapes because they want to cover their ears and cover their eyes and refuse to speak up, then you're no better than the pedophiles who are perpetrating these horrendous acts.
If not, they're worse. You know, we now know that those things are coming out and we know more information. Now, before you could say, well, we didn't know, but now we know. Well, we also know that the Department of Justice, along with Pam Bondi, is making sure that we only get information that leads us in one direction, and that's away from Donald Trump, away from the rich and the powerful pedophiles. Not a single one of them have been arrested, even though the victims have named them, They have not been arrested. And no interview of Sasha Riley. Now, the other side of this, and this shows you the type of person that Trump is. You know, they shot and killed underage girls to create fear in the rest of them and to keep them from talking. You know, they had one girl trying to swim off the island and they noticed she was missing. She made it halfway to the mainland swimming, and they caught up with her in a boat. And another girl tried to get away and they took her passport away. So people, I mean, you keep putting this information in front of people, and I don't think, quite frankly, that the Department of Justice is going to do justice. And I don't think Kash Patel is going to do justice because they're controlled by a sick individual who thinks raping young girls and boys is okay and killing young boys and girls is okay. So somewhere we got to find a level of justice, and I think it's going to be in the streets, Al. I think we're going to have to enforce it in the streets.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably the only thing that's left because when you have that much evidence and they're covering it up, and the folks who are responsible for justice are part of the cover up, there's nothing else left to do but fight back.
Right. I mean, we're fighting for our kids. I mean, this is a moral issue. This isn't a political issue. We're fighting for our kids. We're fighting for our future's kids. I got a great grandson that's going to be born in April. Okay. I got a great granddaughter that's a little over a year old. These things bother me. Pedophiles running the streets bother me. Okay. Because these are children and they're innocent until they're violated. And then they're never the same again. You know, they're never given a chance to be children for the rest of their lives. And they can't be adults either because there's so much damage done to them. You know, and that's, it's horrible. And I'm going to fight till I draw my last breath to put an end to this stuff.
Yeah, understood. My grandchildren mean everything to me, and I am already a great grandfather, and I can only imagine what I would do. There wouldn't be a need for a hearing if it happened to any of my grandchildren. These folks aren't supposed to be locked up. They're supposed to be eliminated because there's no cure for that. And if you can tell because how long they continue to do it, and now they cover up. And what do you get? You get to be in the Supreme Court. You get to be a congressman. You get to be a senator. You get to be the president of the United States. You get to be a first lady. Those are the rewards for pedophilia in the United States of America. That's justice for you in the USA.
People claim to be religious. How can you claim to be religious and support Donald Trump when you know that he's committed these crimes? How can you do that? How can you get in front of people and say, pray for these girls, thinking that that's going to do something good for them? Maybe in the afterlife, but they deserve justice in this life. And those people that claim to be justice needs to join us. Now, there are some religious leaders out there that's joining the fight. There are some religious churches that are standing up. And I think that the noise from the Epstein files has gotten louder, even though all the things that Trump's done to try to redirect our attention away from them. We haven't redirected our attention. And I see stuff on Facebook and it says no matter what you do, I will not forget the Epstein files. And I didn't write it. There's other people's writing it. And of course, I chime in and say, I will not forget the Epstein files either. No matter what you do, you're guilty. No matter what you do, you need to be held accountable. No matter who's involved, right, left, rich, poor, you need to be held accountable. And I'm gonna tell you, Pam Bondi needs to be held accountable for her crimes. Now, she was subpoenaed, I believe, yesterday to appear before Congress. Will she tell the truth? No. Pam Bondi has lived a life of lying, and that's how she got where she's at. Trump didn't look around and say, oh, I want the most honest people around me. He looked around and said, I need the most dishonest people around me because they're like me. So, I don't think that Congress is going to get anything out of Pam Bondi that's going to be fruitful.
I agree. And you were mentioning about our so-called churchgoers. So folks, you can't see me, but I'm putting up my exclamation points. They identify as Christians, but they conveniently ignore everything Christ-like, right? And they follow this wicked man blindly. To me, that's a new definition of the Republican Party. You don't matter. There's no more Republican Christians. It's just Republican MAGA folks, and whatever Donald Trump says, he's their new Jesus, and it's not that complicated.
Well, the word Christian is another cover up for being an ICE agent or for being a murderer or endorsing a pedophile or being a pedophile or endorsing criminals. I mean, the religious people knew when they voted that Trump had raped women. He knew that he had walked in locker rooms of underage girls when they were naked. All this was before he became president. They knew that he was convicted of felonies, of tax evasion, along with other felonies. They knew that stuff, and the religious people somehow justified voting for him. Now, I'm sorry, but that's not religion. I was baptized as a Methodist. My first father-in-law was a Baptist preacher. And I'm not saying I'm the most religious person or most knowledgeable on the Bible or the teachings. But I can tell you right now, raping young girls and boys, there's no place in the Bible that says that's okay. Raping, and just because you're rich or you think you're a king, doesn't put you above the law. There's nothing in the Bible that says that. Those people need to be prosecuted. So those people that call themselves Christian but allow this stuff and endorse this stuff, they're not Christians. They need to step up to the plate and say, look, well, I was lying. I'm not a Christian, but it makes me feel good on Sunday. So they need to do that. I mean, one or the other, there's no in between. And you know how I am. There's no in between. You're either this or that. And that's the way I've been all my life. You can't be in between.
Understood, agreed. And we'll end with that. So I want to thank you, brother, once again for adding your input. Look forward to talking to you next week. I got a feeling we might be in another war. We never know with this president. We never know. Hello, folks. We've reached the end of another episode. I want to thank everybody for watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe button below. And please leave your comments. We're interested in what you're thinking. Unless you're one of those far right-wing MAGA nuts. And you already know we don't give a damn what you're thinking. So until next week, let's stay in the fight. Peace.
This segment of Al's Joint is brought to you by J-Pack Trucking.